everyone, I am Angela M. Termacha, and for today's video, I will discuss one of the biogeochemical cycle, which is the sulfur cycle. So all living things require sulfur in order to make protein. So you cannot make protein without the sulfur. So sulfur is an important factor in order to make protein. So now, as you can see here in our illustration, so you can see here in cartolina, and I draw the process of the sulfur cycle. So the sulfur cycle starts in the weathering of rocks. So this is the rocks. So weathering, it is breaking or dissolving of rock into pieces. Okay, so as you can see here, so after that, when the rock is now break into pieces, it will now enter into the ocean. Some of it will enter into the drainage of lakes or streams. Okay, so after that, it will then go to the ocean, and then the ocean will have its sulfur because the rocks contain sulfur. Okay, and after that, the ocean will now have the sulfur in ocean sediments. So ocean sediments, ang kaning ocean sediments, nabilong na ang soil, rocks, and fossil fuel. Kaya ang soil, rocks, and fossil fuel nag-contain po na silang sulfur. Okay? In addition to that, marine algae releases dimethyl sulfide. So, padool ta, mga guys. So, muna siya. So, nag-contain ang marine algae o dimethyl sulfide nga gi-release niya into the atmosphere. So, kaning dimethyl sulfide will now react to oxygen gas in the atmosphere. When the dimethyl sulfide will react into the oxygen gas in the atmosphere, it will form into sulfur dioxide. Okay? So, nakita ninyo? Sulfur dioxide. And then, also, kung naay mga volcanic eruption, ang volcanic eruption will now release sulfur dioxide and hydrogen sulfide into the atmosphere. So, as we can see here, the sulfur dioxide will now also react to the oxygen in the atmosphere. So, ang sulfur dioxide mo react or mo contact into the oxygen sa atmosphere, and then will form into sulfur trioxide, as well as the hydrogen sulfide also form into sulfur trioxide. So, nanata sa atmosphere ha. So, after that, the sulfur trioxide will now reacts to the water in the atmosphere. So, kung ang sulfur trioxide mo react sa water into the atmosphere, it will now form into sulfuric acid. Okay? Sulfuric acid. And then, also, if the sulfur trioxide will react to ammonia, it will transform into sulfate salt. So, kanina lang duha, sulfuric acid o sulfate salt. Kanina lang duha, nga moanhi sa clouds. Okay? Moanhi sa clouds ning duha. After that, the sulfur will now fall back to the earth through precipitation. Precipitation means rainfall. So, uwan, pinaagi sa uwan, ma-release balik na pod ang sulfur balik sa earth. Okay? And then, so, ma-release naman siya, the arrow, maanhin na siya sa soil. So, ang sulfate salt, i-absorb siya sa soil. Okay? So, ang sulfate salt, i-absorb siya sa soil. Karon, ang plants na pod, the plants then absorb the sulfur by absorbing the sulfate salt from the soil. So, ma-absorb niya ang sulfur sa soil, pinaagip sa pag-absorb sa sulfate salts nga naa sa soil. Okay? And then after that, animals in turn get sulfur by eating the plants. So, ang animals makakuha pog sulfur pinaagi sa pagkaon o plants. So, ang sulfur will now go to the food chain of the animals. Okay? So, after that, animals release sulfur when they decay. So, kung mamatay ang animals, so decaying matter, so, ato'y pakana. Decaying matter ni siya. So, mag-release ang decaying matter sa animals og hydrogen sulfide og sulfate salts. After that, the anaerobic bacteria will break down the hydrogen sulfide into sulfur gas, and the anaerobic bacteria converts the sulfur into sulfate salt, which again the plants absorb, and then any other cycle, it just keep going. So after na naman po sulfur ang soil, so the remaining sulfur will now enter into the ocean or in drainage in the lakes or stream para ani mo enter na pod kay kaning koan the reservoir of sulfur is came from the soil, rocks, and fossil fuel. So if kaning soil, rocks, and fossil fuel will go again or will enter again to the ocean, and then the sulfur again released to the atmosphere, and the sulfur cycle is keep going. Okay? So that's all for my discussion for today. So that's all for the sulfur cycle. So tuyok-tuyok ra ng cycle. Okay? So I hope you understand, and thank you for listening. Bye!